Raghav never wanted to come to like superstition. By dusk, he found the house. It stood alone near the banyan tree, old, cracked, breathing silence. In front of it stood a man, the landlord, tall, thin, too still. "Looking for a room?" he asked, smiling, though his eyes didn't move. The rent was unbelievably low. No ID, no paperwork, just one condition. Don't touch the wall beside your bed. The room was suffocating. One bed, one dim bulb, one wall pressed too close to the pillow. The air smelled damp, like something had been closed for too long. Raghav lay down. Night fell. The first night was silent, too silent. The second night he heard it, a sound, soft, wet, uneven, breathing. At first he thought it was his own. He held his breath. The sound continued right next to his ear, from the wall. He pressed his fingers against it, cold, but not fully solid. He knocked. Tap. The breathing stopped. Then tap, tap. Something knocked back. Raghav didn't sleep. The next day he asked the villagers, but they refused to answer until the old man grabbed his arm and whispered, "You heard it, didn't you?" Raghav's silence was enough. The old man leaned closer, his breath trembling. "They don't want you to leave. Once you hear them." "Who?" Raghav asked. The old man's eyes filled with something worse than fear. "Those who are still inside." That night, the breathing returned, closer, heavier, like something pressing its face against the other side. Raghav whispered, "Who are you?" A long pause, then a voice, dry, cracked, barely human. "Why did you come back?" Raghav stumbled away. "I never came here before." Silence, then dozens of whispers overlapped, breaking. "You always come back." Days passed. The sounds never stopped. Sometimes crying, sometimes scratching, sometimes screaming, and sometimes they spoke in voices he recognized. "Raghav, open it, please. It's dark. Let us out." He stopped eating, stopped sleeping, because every time he closed his eyes, he saw the wall breathing, expanding and contracting like lungs.
On the fifth night, he smelled something rot, sweet, and sickening. The wall had changed. It wasn't flat anymore. It pulsed, soft like flesh. That's when he broke. He grabbed a rusted iron rod, walked to the wall and whispered, "If someone's inside, I'll get you out." The wall trembled. The voices turned frantic. "No, don't open!" But he struck anyway. The rod sank in, not into concrete, but into something soft, something that bled. Dark liquid oozed out, warm and thick, and the breathing turned into choking gasps. Another strike and a hole opened, pitch black, too black, as if light refused to enter. Then an eye opened inside the wall, bloodshot, trembling, crying, staring directly at him. Raghav dropped the rod as the eye followed him, and then it spoke, not from outside, not from inside, but from everywhere at once. "You took too long." The wall didn't explode outward, it collapsed inward, as if reality itself tore open. Behind it was not a room, not emptiness. but an endless living tunnel of bodies, thousands of them, stacked, folded, twisted together, their skin fused into the walls, their mouths open, their eyes moving, all breathing, all alive. Some had no faces, some had too many, some were still growing into the walls, slowly being absorbed. They all turned toward him at once and whispered, "Stay." Hands shot out cold, wet grabbing his legs, pulling him in. Raghav screamed, crawled, fought, and somehow escaped outside. The landlord was waiting. Of course he was. Raghav collapsed at his feet, trembling. "What is that?" The landlord looked almost disappointed, then sighed. "Beneath this village, there is something older than God. It was found under that banyan tree, not sleeping, waiting. It doesn't kill, it keeps. It feeds on fear, on memory, on identity. That's why they hear voices. That's why they break." Raghav shook his head. "You're insane." The landlord smiled slowly, too widely. "I was the first," he whispered. Raghav froze. "I opened it, and it let me go, because I promised to feed it forever." Raghav tried to stand, but his body didn't respond. His legs were numb. He looked down. Thin cracks had formed across his skin, spreading along his arms and chest, like something inside him was trying to come out. The landlord leaned closer. "You heard them. That means it already opened you." Raghav felt it, then a second heartbeat inside his chest. Not his. His mouth opened, but the voice that came out wasn't his. "Bring him back." The landlord nodded gently, respectfully. And Raghav stopped moving. Morning came. The room was clean. The wall was smooth. Perfect. But if you stood close enough, you could see it very faint, very subtle a shape from inside, pressing outward, like a face trying to remember how to exist. Outside, a new board hung. "Room available." And beneath the banyan tree, the roots had grown thicker, because it was still feeding. Last line. "Some doors don't trap your body. They trap your existence."